Today, we have the opportunity to chat with James Devine, candidate for Ward 4 City Council in the special election. It's coming up January 17th, the preliminary, and we're here to get a little information about himself, his candidacy, and how he would serve the folks of Ward 4. So, Mr. Devine, Jimmy, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Joe.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this. Tell me a little bit, if you can, about yourself and why you're running for Ward 4.
I mean, you want myself as like, I grew up in Scituate. I moved I went to Northeastern University, Severian Brothers High School. And after Northeastern, I took a program for construction supervisors at Northeastern Satellite School out in Dedham. Went on to have my own construction company. And then basically, I moved to Quincy 18 years ago. I actually thought it was going to be just an investment property. It was a two-family, and I said to my wife, my mother wasn't well, so it was halfway between where my wife worked and my mother. So I said, we'll stay here for a while, and then we'll keep it as an investment property. But after about 6 months, we loved it. It was so central and really great feel. Loved all the people. So we didn't know then, but now we're lifers. You know, we love it here. The people we bought the house from, they actually were happy to sell it to us because we weren't a developer, and we were planning on keeping the house. And most of the people that, even back then, were trying to buy houses and knock them down. So they were very happy to sell it to us. So then after that, being here 18 years, I've raised both my children, Grace and Evan Devine. Gone through all the schools, three of them actually right here in Quincy. Ward 4 was De La Chiesa, and then Lincoln Hancock and Sterling, which is now Southwest. And my son's just about to graduate from Quincy High. And my daughter graduated a year and a half ago from Quincy High also. We live here with my wife, who's a beautiful lady, a very nice person, and she's an immigrant from Ireland. Then let's see what else. We've done all the local things, T-ball. And me personally, I was a coach for T-ball, and we did South Shore Youth Basketball, who was coach for that, things like that. So we've really been, pretty knee deep here in Ward 4 and Quincy itself. Very diversified. I'm very proud of my two children growing up in these diversified schools, because that's all they know. When people start talking about these issues with, inclusion and diversity, my children grew up with that. They don't see any difference. It's all the same. Everybody's just equal. So I'm really proud that I kept them in these public schools and let them, see the world the way it really is.
So is this your first run at political office, Jimmy?
It would be. 12 years ago, I wasn't happy with the way that Ward 4 was going, and we weren't being represented properly, I felt. So I told my wife, I said, the incumbent's running unopposed, and if he doesn't and nobody runs against him, I might have to do it. And I didn't want to. My children were, 5 and 7 at the time, and there's a lot of things that I wanted to do. And this is a full committal job. This job is not just 8 months, 2 meetings a month, So I don't know if some people think that, but it's not. It's a full-time job. Well, it's a part-time job, but there's a lot of committed time, after hours, a lot of questions, 11,000 constituents in Ward 4. And that's just the ones that are registered. There's even more people here. So 12 years ago, I was planning on doing it because nobody seemed to be stepping up to it. But then one day, Brian Palmucci stepped into my driveway, and he was a younger guy. He didn't have any kids at the time. And he said he was going to be running. And I said, perfect. I'm like, he seemed like a nice guy. Talked to him, got to know him. So then I helped him. I put up all the signs. Talking about my immigrant wife, one of my nephews was out for the summer, and he ran around with me hanging up signs all over the place on Bergen Parkway, mounting big ones in here and there, and you put them everywhere. And so helped them get in, and then that was it for there. And I think Brian did a great job. He did an exceptional job for the first 6 years. But then his family started to grow, and families take a lot of effort. And so then I think he just did his job. He did it well, but so now that he stepped down, I don't want to wait and see who comes in. I trust myself, and I just want to make sure that we have the right representation for Ward 4. And I truly believe that I'm just a regular person that lives here in Ward 4 that can represent us properly with no bias. It's a nonpartisan job, and that doesn't mean just not Democrat, not Republican. It means nonpartisan to anybody, no bias, you have no agenda, anyone. So my only agenda is to the people in Ward 4. I'm not connected to anybody.
What is it you would say are some of the main concerns of the ward, Jimmy? What needs to be done?
Well, I mean, everybody's definitely going to just jump right on the idea of, traffic, overdevelopment, taxes. Those are easy. Like, that's clearly, they're already there. And back to diversity and hate crimes. These ones are kind of simple to me. They're generic. Everyone knows them. So I know we had the overdevelopment. Some people are talking about the 46 units at the intersection of Copeland and Furnace Brook. It's that's a tough one. I think it's too big personally. Tried to fight it. I've been at the meetings opposing it, and it's also hard because I actually know the person that's trying to develop it. In a social way. Like I've done business with them a couple of times, and speaking against them is difficult. But that's why I feel that I can also do this job, because I don't mind confrontation when it's right and wrong. I don't mind asking the hard questions. I definitely like to make people join together and do things together so we can find a happy medium. But I do not mind when I think something's wrong, speaking up and getting it out there. But with that being said, they've worked on that project pretty hard. They bought another property, so now they're trying to put the roads are going to be, the driveways are coming out on either side of the intersection now, which was good. They worked on that, and now they pulled it away from the street so that you can drive in. So like say Zoom or UPS, or not Zoom, but UPS or Amazon, they can get in and park without obstructing traffic, which is very important. The previous one it was right up to the sidewalk, which was ridiculous. So I think they worked really hard on it. I still think it's too big, but it's one of those things. So I know there is a meeting coming up on, I believe it's the 10th, but I'm under the impression that it is just to confirm that they had performed a traffic study. And they had, and it had been done. They've done their peer reviews. So I don't know if we have the ability to slow it down or make it smaller anymore. If I know that, some people are saying they want to go on the meetings, it's great. And I wish they had gone to the last two that I encouraged people to, but many people didn't. But going forward with more traffic like that, I understand we need development and things like that too. But now, if this does go through, as a counselor, I would like to address the lights instead. So now if the building's going to go up, we're going to have more traffic. So now we have to stop looking backwards, because we can only live in the future and the present and the future. So as a counselor, I would like to address the state and get them to work on the lights there. They're pretty archaic at that intersection. I think I can quote you as saying it's the gateway to Quincy.
One of them.
It is. And we need to make sure that those lights are synced with the lights that are at the bottom of Quarry and Furnace Brook, and then also all the way down at Adams Street. So that, I think we have like 110 lights in Quincy itself, but those three are from the city. I don't know if we'll be able to get them linked to the city lights also, but our lights are mostly synced, or they're getting synced, so that they're smarter, so that we can alleviate traffic. That's the type of things I'd like to work on. And I don't want to have the state and the city be like this, it's your fault. I want to be the guy in the middle and be like, no, it's nobody's fault. We're going to work together and we'll figure it out. And then with the size of the building, my other concerns is engine 5 doesn't have a ladder. It's right around the corner. Most people don't understand this. It's very important. And I know we're working on it. I don't want to make it sound like there's a big bad problems, because it's, like if you think of the city as your house, certain things, you can only do so many things at a time. But with that being said, I believe engine 5 is one of the busiest, and they go out on the highway all the time, and they cover a major area on the highway, and they need a ladder truck. So that ladder truck has to come from the other two. And so they do need one, and we need to address that, especially with the overdevelopment in taller buildings. I know we did get a big tiller truck, it drives in the back, which is great. And I believe that it was paid for by some of the building in the city, from a DIF programmer. So like, it's great that, we made them pay for that, and that we didn't have to pay for it ourselves, but we still need one over here. And so that'd be something else I'd like to start working on, or, putting a little more heat on, just to make sure, because I think it's very important. So I guess, like I said, traffic, overdevelopment, taxes, and diversity, those are all basics to me. But engine 5 is important for with the engine. Another thing is, Ulrich Road and this area that I live in, and Cross Street and Furnace Ave, we're really low-lying areas, and we've gotten some major flooding. The people on Ulrich Road, I felt really bad for them, because, the last time they got the major flood, it hit their first floor. It's one thing when you get a flood in your basement and you get water, you just don't put valuables down there, but your first floor, you're going to have valuables. And some of these people's floors, their first floors were hit with water. We have a program, MEMA grant, that's supposed to be paying for a pump station that's going to go down in Furnace Ave. I know they're working on it. The drawings have been rendered. All this stuff's been done. They put it out to bid. So it is coming along. But I just want to make sure that we focus on that, make sure that it keeps moving at a quick pace, because I feel like we're due for some more water. And I just want to make sure that, hopefully it doesn't get that 100-year storm before it gets, shoveled into the ground. And also, we have, there's a Mass Save does a lot of programs for people. They do like insulation, but that's not the only thing they do. They actually have another program where you can get part of and then you can move your furnace. Let's say your furnace is on your basement. You can get it moved up into a different unit, like on a first floor, and they have these grants for it. But they only do half of it. I forget, vice versa. One does just labor. But I'd like to reach out, and we have a guy named Steve. I don't want to say his last name. I'm gonna because I'll butcher it. I don't want to insult him. But he's a grant writer for the city. As a counselor, I'd like to reach out to him and see if we can get the other half of the grant written, so that we can take Mass Save and our Quincy City, put it together, and then that would pay for both the mechanical parts of it and also the labor. So that then there'd be very little out of cost for somebody to move those up. And it behooves insurance companies and things like that, because then they don't have to replace it every time there's a flood. Sure. It's just another little thing that, is important to me. And these things are important to people in the neighborhood. And you don't really hear about them because they're somewhat isolated. Do you know what I mean? Like they only affect, they affect basically people from here all the way down to Blacks Creek, So that's important to me.
want to ask you, you're a contractor, you have your own contracting
Yeah.
business, yet you're talking about overdevelopment. So is there
I'm a small contractor. I don't, I do kitchens, bathrooms, remodeling. I used to do a lot of roofing, but I'm getting older, so I really don't. That stuff's heavy. But I'm not against overdevelopment. I'm against overdevelopment, but I'm not against development. I would love to see more elderly type of housing coming in. To be honest, if they the 46 units, if they had come up and I know they said they're going to have 5 low income housing, but if they had said, hey, they're not going to be on the first floor, but on the second floor, if we're going to give 6 elderly housing, with an elevator, I'd be like, hey, I'd almost be like, fine, go for it. Like that's great, because that's what that's a real humanitarian type thing to do. And then you could say that there's less traffic because they're not likely to be going out during traffic hours. They're probably retired and they're gonna go out when when they don't want to be in traffic. I would have loved to have seen that. Maybe as a counselor we could have talked about it before it got to paper.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing that I like to do. Even as a counselor too, like I don't know why, but I really like to if somebody, I get bored when everything's copacetic, but the minute someone says we can't do that, I'm like, wait, what are we doing? And I want to do it. And when I see 2 people and they're at wit's end, they don't know where to go, but neither one wants to compromise. I love to find a happy medium and help them find that spot. And then
you're a mediator.
Yeah, and then everybody feels like they got what they wanted. And I don't know why my mom's instilled it in me, but I think I just get a good feeling when you help somebody find their path to get to where they want when they're in a roadblock.
Yeah. Do you think the city's current zoning laws are adequate, or do you think they need to be?
I think the current zoning laws are actually really good. They do a good job. And I don't agree with when they're going to ask for these variances in the middle of a neighborhood. They know what they're doing, and I don't appreciate that. I don't like that. Just to make an extra buck, and I'm sure some people are not going to be happy about that. But when you take a small neighborhood that has all, single and 2-family homes, and then you want to throw in, 6 units in the middle of nowhere, I don't like that. They just did it next door to my house, and the guy's really been working very hard with it. That's building it. And it's going to be a beautiful building, and it is going to be an asset to the neighborhood. But he worked with us. He's gone back and forth, and they've reduced it down to 5. And we always expected that there would be 4 anyways. So we're good with that. The neighbors are all happy, and I think everyone's good. And that's another thing. We all talked about it, and some of the things I mentioned, people weren't happy with. They didn't like how I was outspoken or I said my piece, but at the end of the day, they're like, oh, that makes sense. And we agree. And I think we're all happy. And I can't wait to see it. It's going to be right onto my right. It fits the neighborhood just barely, but it fits.
I ask you about, a lot of other wards in the city have active civic associations, but not so much in Ward 4. Do you think that's something that's important?
Well, for me, one of the biggest things that I want to bring, I'm not all about doom and gloom. There's this problem, that problem. To be honest, the biggest thing I want to do with Ward 4 is I want to bring back, we used to have like barbecues down at O'Rourke Field. I want to have that. I want to bring back like a movie night, at dusk, have some films and bring people together. Because actually, when talking about diversity, when you bring people together like that, we're all running around. We don't stop to see each other. We pass each other at Lois is at the Donut King, and you don't always stop and say hi. You just pass each other. So you don't really know, like, hey, that's Joe, but when you stop and you have a burger and you're eating it and you meet somebody, then you're like, oh, okay, that's John. You don't all see him. You don't see him as a diversity person or some other race or something. And so that's something that I really want to bring back. And not just once, I want to do a bunch of maybe some smaller ones in little areas for certain neighborhoods. Because we have like 5 kind of big neighborhoods. But down at the Quincy Food Pantry, the QPAC. They have a room there that they said that we could use, a counselor can use as a meet and greet, once or twice a month. And
I was going to ask
that's
you
what I
about
want
that,
to do.
actually. Yeah.
I want to have actual, depending on the need, I'd like to have maybe every first and third Tuesday between 5 and 7, just come down and say, say your piece. Because when you call somebody on the phone and you say, hey, that there's way too many dogs running loose at, O'Rourke. Now, why aren't they going to the dog park? Excuse me. I'm like, you want to, if you come down, you look somebody in the eye and you have 10 people that are talking about it, you can get them together and figure out how we can come up with a scenario. And then there's 10 people that are talking about it, and 10 people that are Ward 4 residents, not just, Jimmy Devine standing there trying to figure it out. We can band together and get a lot more done. It takes a village, and I'd like to make our village, touch base again. And touching on actually O'Rourke Field, some people have mentioned, that too many dogs run free there. And so now I'm just thinking to myself, as they said it, it's a very large field and we don't use one of the baseball diamonds in the very back. So I'm going to approach and see if we can set up a fence that runs, maybe 20 feet off the back fence and runs almost the whole length down towards the basketball courts. And then that way they could use that as a big dog run. And then everyone would be happy, because then I know it's not a dog park, but we don't use that part really anymore. So now you could accommodate these other people, because the other people that are there, they might live closer to O'Rourke Field, might have easier parking. And they're not supposed to really let them be off leash, but if we could make an isolated area, it would be great. And also, I feel for the people that, there's a nice playground there, and there's young kids there. And, not every kid loves a dog. Some are terrified of them. And when they see a dog running around, they all of a sudden, they're no longer having fun on the playground. They're hanging onto their parents' legs. And I know that there's nobody there that's walking their dog that wants any child to feel that way. They just don't realize it, So I think that would help a lot of things. Door knocking, I've been having a lot of fun with it, and I've met a lot of people, and I've already helped fix it almost more than a half dozen situations.
Really?
Even one is very important is that Quarry and Furnace Brook. There was a huge hedge that was covering one of the light signal lights, so you couldn't see it. And a person had told me about it, so I said, I'll see what I can do. So I walked across the street. I knocked on the homeowner's house and I said, hey, would you mind if I cut your hedges? You can't see the lights. And they said, no, that'd be great. I can't do it myself. And I'm like, all right. So I said, I'll be back in the morning. So I cut it down. About a week and a half later, I was knocking on another door up the street, and I told them what I had done, because I want credit for it. I did do it, and to be honest, I did it the next day because I was worried about accidents. Once you know something, then you have to do it. And me personally, once I thought that, oh my gosh, there might be an accident here, I had to do it. It was easy, it was very, very simple. And but the other person, a week and a half later, they said, wait, you got that done? They're like, we've been trying for 2 years, and the city and the state keep saying it's theirs. And they're like, what'd you do? I'm like, I knocked on the door and asked if I could cut them down. And they just kind of smirked, and they're like, okay, I guess that works. Now, clearly,
So
if
would you call yourself a problem solver? Get it done?
I do. I love to problem solve. Yeah. And in simple ways, sometimes people get so consumed in make it such a big deal, when in reality it's simpler than that. Sometimes, not always.
Let me ask, while you're thinking about that, let me ask you, there's been a lot of criticism, I guess, or at least concern about the way the city spends money on some projects. Overall, how do you feel that the administration is handling the city budget?
I'm probably going to get in hot water for some of this, but I think they do an exceptional job. It's phenomenal. I moved here 18 years ago, and I brought my 2-year-old daughter into Star Market, and there was a girl not feeling so well and getting sick into the trash barrel. And I said to myself, what did I bring my family into? I was thinking, I'm like, how can I raise my child here? Now fast forward to today. This summer, there were people in Boston, standing in Boston, maybe walking around, and they said, hey, let's get on the red line and go check out Quincy Center. That's fact. People come from all over the world now, and definitely all over the States, to come in and check out Quincy Center. So that's amazing. Like, nobody would have in their right mind said, let's go to Quincy Center 14 years ago. The way we get there is it's also very impressive. I mean, the grants and the funds and the programs that we have, and the DIF program, that, you know, the district improvement program, like these things, a lot of people, they don't understand. And I don't understand all of them exactly either. So if I'm misquoting, sorry to anybody out there, but you know, some of the bronze statues and things like that, they're paid for from federal funding or grants. That's not what's making our taxes go up. And I know nobody wants your taxes to go up. We have a median tax, but we have a phenomenal city that's like, we have every amenity we need. We have full trash pickup. We have a fleet of street sweepers that go around. I don't think people actually stop to notice, but if you look around, our streets are clean. And it's not because people stop littering, because people still litter, but it's because we have our own fleet of street sweepers that go around. You'll see them on Bergen Parkway cleaning up all the trash that's on Bergen Parkway. Bergen Parkway, you'll be hard pressed to find some trash around there. You know, and even at this time of year. So we're doing phenomenal. I definitely like to keep tabs on the taxes, because I feel really bad, not bad. I feel for, you know, the older people that, you know, when they were making their salaries, it's a lot of money now, you know, like if 30 years ago, they were only making $20,000 and now they're paying, you know, $7,000 in taxes. And that's, how do you do that? So I understand, but once again, here's another thing we have, you know, we have the senior tax deferral. So if you're a senior and you want to stay in your house and you qualify, you can defer your taxes. I know that, you know, that's not ideal, but it's something. It's a way to stay in your home. So I think we're doing an excellent job. And but I also like the idea that we send out more money to you know, corporate. Like we charge higher taxes to corporate to keep ours down. You know, I think the average house might have gone up $200 this year. And once again, I understand voters, they really don't like the idea of taxes going up. I don't either. You know, I pay taxes. I have a property. I don't like it either, but at the same time, I really love the way our city's going. I think it's phenomenal.
We're running short on time, but I did want to ask you about the a major project right now in Ward 4 is the plans to lease the Granite Links area to Quarry Hills. How do you feel about that?
Well, I can tell you, I was the only candidate that's running for Ward 4 that was up there for the walk, because they had a public meeting to walk the trails that were talked about that weren't maintained. To be honest, those trails are kind of they go through behind and between some apartment buildings and things like that. So they're not really ideal trails that you would really want to. So, but they're kind of there. But I'm an avid hiker. I like to hike in Blue Hills. I like to go to the top of Rattlesnake Hill, and you know, you can see from over there. But I think instead of worrying about those trails, that's another thing. As a counselor, I would like to talk to them about maybe making a trail that goes to the left and the right of Blue Hills and loops back around and comes back out, so that people can hike in there. But I really don't want one going through the middle, because some of the people from the Blue Hills were telling me that Friends of Blue Hills were telling me how, since the golf course is there, it's isolated a big section of Blue Hills. And being isolated from human contact, now there's a really natural wildlife thriving in that area. And if we do put a path, and then I know this is going to make some people not happy, but if we did put a path through the middle of the golf course, it's no longer going to be isolated. It's going to, people will just run right through there. So I'd prefer not to see that. The 99-year lease, we get 10% of everything they make. I like that's great. And we have other 99-year leases in the city. It's not uncommon to give out a 99-year lease. As a businessman in a construction and things like that, I understand that, you need a committal so that you can entice these bigger projects. Bigger projects means more money. More money is 10% more of whatever else they make. But if it is done, we need to do something anyways with Trudy Drive and the off ramp. I've called the state many times and they tell me continually, we can't have a light there. We can't do this. It's against the law. But there is one in Dorchester. There's a stop sign like 250 feet off the ramp in Dorchester. So I don't agree with that. But as a regular person, they won't listen to me. But maybe as a counselor, when I walk up and I stand there and I say, hey, this is how it is. This is what we need. And we have soccer fields and baseball fields. So we put all our youth at risk every time they cross that street. So, I dreaded it when I had my kids and I would bring them up there and play baseball and soccer. And it's only gotten worse. And I feel really bad for the parents that are going there now. So we're going to need a light system there or some type of ramp, something. And that I would definitely be looking to work on.
If you do win, Mr. Devine, would you run for the full 2-year term next year?
I would like to run for the next 15 years and be the best ward counselor there ever was. I have no ambition to go anywhere else. I'm not a politician. I pride myself on that. I'm sorry to all the politicians that are out there. The only problem with winning is I'll never be able to say I'm not a politician anymore, But I truly believe that this is first tier local government, nonpartisan. I am doing this just because I have the ability now. My children are older. I don't want to wait and see what happens with whoever comes in. I trust myself, and I want to be the voice for Ward 4 in Quincy. I truly believe that I am the best person for the job right now.
All right. You were on the ballot on January 17th.
I have number one, too. While they were drawing the ballots, I was cutting hedges in the rain.
Anything else you'd like to share right now?
Well, you said we're running out of time, so I could keep going if you wanted to, but if we're out of time, I'll let you go, Joe. I have a lot of other doors to knock on, and I'm sorry to say I will not be able to knock on everyone's door because we don't have the time. But I'm going to knock on as many as I can until then.
Do you have is there a social media presence or a website?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. I can hold this up for you if that helps. That'll work.
We got it.
And then that's about it. And thank you so much for giving me the time and the ear. And I hope I made sense,
We appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and we wish you the best.
All right, great, Joe. Have a great day. Happy New Year.